All right, you're asking for it, so here it is. Listen to this.
I want you folks laughing at we partners pod, kid. You understand? We in here drinking, singing, swinging, all that shit, dog. We sweating, getting wet, all that.
All right, welcome to DP Quarentimes special edition number, I don't even know, are we 13, 12? I don't know. Time doesn't exist anymore. We're just in the studio and happy to be here. Happy to still be able to bring you all content, bring you great interviews, and drink beer on the clock. Mm-hmm. Drink beer as a job. That's always good for me. So I'm half of your hosting tandem, Ed Bailey. I'm joined as always with my co-host, Dave Bracey. Say what up to the people.
What's good with you people? We are the Drinking Partners, and if you're looking for us, you can find us on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google Play.
We Googleable.
And Spotify under Drinking Partners. You can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at PartnersPod. A few years now, man, 7 years going on, something like that. You know what I mean? 200, 300 some episodes we've been asking y'all. We will continue to ask you, please hop on iTunes, hop on Facebook, rate and review. That's how we know we're doing well. That's how we let others know that we're doing well. And that's how we continue to do well. So please hop on iTunes, hop on Facebook, rate and review.
Listen, you love us. You used to see us out in public and would tell us that you love us. Now, at the click of a button, we need you more than any time in the past. We need you to please, at the click of a button, tell the internet, tell the world, tell everybody about Drinking Partners. Tell everybody who you want to see on the show. Tell us what you want to see from the show, what you like, timestamp episodes, whatever it is. Like, we're here for the people, man. We're here to entertain you all and bring you, awareness of what folks are doing in the city. Artists, entrepreneurs, politicians, all of that, man. Like, so please let us know. We talk to y'all, so talk back, all right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We are the community, just like our sponsor for this episode, Farm to Table. People are the community.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Farm to Table. You know what I mean? If you want to find the freshest fruits and vegetables at your local farmer's market this year, or have them delivered to your door with local CSA programs, you'll also find all types of cheese, eggs, meat, honey, maple syrup, jams, and dairy products sourced in PA. If you're looking for those things, holla at farmtotablepa.com. They're out there doing good things in the community, connecting people to the products. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money to eat healthy. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time to eat healthy. You just need to connect with the right people that'll, to guide you along that path. I know, as I get a little older, I'm a bit more concerned about, what goes in, and meal preps and things of that nature. Maybe eat a cucumber once in a while.
Yeah, eat some fruit. Eat one of the. See, I think your diet is right when you eating one of them things that might be a fruit, might be a vegetable. Because I don't quite know what a cucumber is. It's got fruit-like characteristics, but it ain't sweet.
Yeah, it ain't. It doesn't moo or oink. So I feel like it's a better thing for me. And and I want to find the folks that are doing that locally, who are producing these things locally. Because again, as we get a little older, as we age in society, we want to connect to the folks, our neighbors, the folks in the community, keep the dollars, local and whatnot. So shout out to Farm to TA for connecting folks to the folks, and fresh produce and farms.
Eat local, eat fresh, eat better. All right, and support the local community, man. Support that local economy. We try to do that, right? We try to do that
every once in a while.
And we're doing it for 3 days straight here.
Yeah, man.
I still got to come up with the call for the Barrel and Flow Fest. I had to Tony Braxton on the one, just let go, let it flow.
Flow Fest coming up, man. September, man. Pandemic. What is time? Well, September 10th through the 12th. 3 days. Friday we conferencing, beer share. Saturday we got a festival from 12 to 9, and Sunday we got a bottle share, a brewer's brunch. 3 days of connecting with, not only the local community, but the Black brewing community, nationally and internationally. I know we got some folks coming in from England, some folks coming in from Canada, maybe even Australia, on deck. And shout out to Tavor. If you can't make it to the festival, if you can't make it to Barrel and Flow Fest,
bring it to your door.
Bring it to your door through Tavor, man, with DigiFlow. Again, we will have 2 days of, a day of conferencing, as well as 6 channels featuring DJs, live music, live art, chefing, and brewing. So if you can't make it there, we'll make it to you, and you can get 16 Black-owned collabs shipped to your door through Tavor. Super big names.
We gotta coin that. get to your door about to vote. They owe us money for that.
Yo, man, the phrases out here.
We keep giving up game, but listen, man, we try again. We support local, but a part of supporting local is spreading the word, nationally, internationally. So that's what the festival's going to be. Support, it's local arts and all of that, man. It's going to be great. But I'm excited about the episode, right? Because we talk this local thing all the time, and I feel like sometimes we, not just the podcast, but we as humans, we miss the local, the importance of locality and really affecting everything that's around you. All right. And so I'm a little nervous. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous because I know they're going to keep me on my P's and Q's because we have a local PAC here who has taken, great interest in, Pittsburgh public schools and how these things function, how they run. And I know for myself, I got a lot to learn and I got children in the school district. And honestly, I don't know what the hell be going on.
Yeah, man. Like,
I think I feel okay saying that because I feel like I'm not the only parent who will say that. It's just like, are y'all open or are y'all closed?
Yeah, true. The report cards come in. Like parent-teacher conferences, but the day-to-day, it goes a little deeper than that. And sometimes I feel like, as parents, we feel a little disconnected at times of the greater process and how much impact our neighbors have on the schooling of our children. So
right, yeah. So we have the opportunity actually to have the chairperson of the Black Women for a Better Education and a member, Chairperson Elise Pinchback Johnson, and member Latrinda Leonard Sherrill, and she got to work on that. There's too many L's in that. Latrinda Leonard Sherrill. I'm messing up a name. Well, we got them in the building. Say what up to the people.
Hey.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, ladies. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us. I think this is a conversation that far too often isn't had. And again, like I was saying, I'm a parent of Pittsburgh public school students, and I can't sit here and act like I'm well informed about Pittsburgh public schools. So I know I have a ton of questions, but just how did the PAC come about? Like, how did this happen? Like, I don't know that I would even have the fortitude to even start a PAC.
Yeah, for this particular cause.
Political action committee. I'm just gonna do it.
True.
So I think to get to how the PAC started, we kind of have to go a little bit back in history. And so rewind back to May of last year, we were kind of in the beginning of the pandemic. And as Black women, some of us are mothers and community partners, people just concerned about Black kids in this region. We were just watching what was happening in the district. Kids were not being educated. There were districts around the region that were able to just get on their laptops and keep doing school. Our kids were just sitting around, maybe getting a packet. There was a whole bunch of fiasco around just what was happening in terms of learning. And so, just like we do as Black women, we're talking on the phone, we texting, Zooming, on Facebook. And we were just like, let's just get together and have a conversation about what's going on in the district. And we did. And, a lot of it was just us just expressing some concerns and just venting about our experiences with our kids. And so fast forward, we found out that the superintendent's contract was up for renewal. And we're like, well, a lot of these issues stem from leadership. And so because we're concerned about that, maybe we should say something. And so we sat down, started doing some research, wrote a letter, and we said to our school board, we do not want to see this contract be renewed. We're concerned about academic performance. We're concerned about Black children being put into the school to prison pipeline. We're concerned about just the management of the district and just the turnover of staff. And so wrote this whole letter to our school board and was like, hey, we really want you to make a different decision for this upcoming contract. And they played our whole lives and did not respond. But we had shared the letter with the media. And so the media started talking about it. And then we wrote a second letter a week later. And then all of a sudden we started getting responses from the board. And so fast forward, a lot of media coverage. We also had a town hall where we said, hey, let's talk to some folks who are doing some good things on behalf of Black kids in the region as well. Just really trying to not just, come with the complaints. There's plenty of them, but wanted to be solutions oriented as well. But, spoiler alert, in August, the district moved forward and they did renew the superintendent's contract 7-2, gave him a raise, and he's going to be around for another 4 years. And so, it wasn't surprising. because we know that Pittsburgh is also the worst city in this region or in this country for Black women. And so, we get played pretty often, but we keep on going. And so we said, well, what happens when, you have 55 people sign a letter, when you have over 2,000 people sign a petition, and you have dozens of people go and testify at public hearings, which are open to families and other community members to express their concerns, and your school board doesn't listen to you? Well, you go ahead and you find representatives that do. So that's how the PAC got started. We said, well, we're going to start a political action committee. We're going to raise money. We're going to run candidates, and these candidates are going to represent our interests. And so here we are today. We're in the midst of election season. The primary is on Tuesday, May 18th. So we're a little bit less than 2 months away. And we're just really trying to get out here and share our concerns. We're trying to just share about the candidates and what they plan to do to transform the district, and really just help people to understand that PPS needs to do a whole bunch more, and they need to be accountable, especially since they have a budget of almost $700 million, which is larger than the entire budget of the city of Pittsburgh. So there's no excuse why children should not be educated at high levels.
You see why I was nervous?
Wow.
They come with receipts. I just sat in. I done ear hustled on a couple of these calls. I'm like, they not playing.
Yeah. You said a pack. So, I mean, man, you said so many words that I didn't understand. I don't understand the mechanisms of schooling. I mean, because from a top down view, you send your kid to a building and you just hope they get smart. That's kind of how school.
Proficient.
Yeah,
you hope they get proficient.
Proficient. To hear not only being dissatisfied, but then taking matters in your own hand and then finding the support and whatnot. It's I mean, wow, all within a year. Congratulations. I mean, at least on the beginning of this. But how do you begin to find candidates? Because something like this, it takes a certain skill set. It also takes, I would imagine a lot of time and patience and resources. So how do you approach somebody and say, hey, we want you to spend a lot of time, money, and resources in order to do something like this? How do you go about creating a PAC?
Go ahead, LaTrenda.
Well, I would say, I think the first thing with any type of organizing effort is a catalytic event, right? And so for us, the pandemic really served as that catalyst to get people to say, hold on, wait a minute. Has my kid been learning what has been happening in Pittsburgh public schools from day one, right? We're angry. And so that was energy that we convened people around to have deeper conversations and really question what's happening in the school district, which then led to, okay, well, we have other people that want to have a conversation with us about what's happening, which then led to, okay, well, let's educate people on what's happening with the district. And so we also did an institute. We formed an institute for people who were just interested more in what's happening with Pittsburgh Public Schools. So we brought in all of these stakeholders, these incredible people who had knowledge and historical, they just had this historical knowledge grounded in past events of Pittsburgh Public Schools. And we just kept sharing with people this information. And then honestly, I think people found out that we were looking, people connected to the Institute members, and they were like, well, a couple of our members, well, if no one else is going to run, someone has to run. Someone has to stand up to this. Someone else has to say enough is enough. And that's really how it happened. It was less about let's put out a call to action on Facebook, right? Because I think that's a part of our issue right now in general. We're so connected online. We just run to Facebook for all of our inquiries and everything. But it was more about no, let's mobilize some people first, and then let's get them to act. And so that led to the PAC, that led to the candidates, that led to a number of things. But we had a catalytic event. The pandemic was the catalytic event. I mean, like, honestly, this to me was a storm that's been waiting to happen. But because of the pandemic, I mean, we were able to get folks' attention. Unlike, people weren't as distracted, right? They weren't as distracted. And so I don't know, Elise, if you have any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, and also I think when you think about who you're going to support, so a PAC supports folks who are in alignment, and so an easy way to say who we were going to support for these 5 seats that are open is, well, if you supported the superintendent and we just told you not to because of our concerns, well, you're automatically out of contention. And so that was literally just one person who was eligible for reelection who didn't, and you'll hear from him later. And so that was a piece of it, as well as just really thinking about alignment. And then just getting out there and just telling folks what needs to be done, and letting them know that for a school board, you got to raise some money to get the word out, and then really just getting some name recognition. And also telling people to vote for a school board, because I think that the stat is like only 20% of people who vote actually vote for their school board candidate anyway, which is unfortunate because it's a really important race.
That's the question I was going to ask. So, like, Latrenda, you say the pandemic, for example, was a catalytic event, right? And a lot of people had to adjust and really look at schooling. But I think far too often the parents, we're looking at schooling as like daycare almost. Like, it's almost like,
which it is. School is definitely daycare for a lot of motherfuckers. I mean,
it is, though.
It allows, yeah. I mean, yeah.
So there's not that vested interest in, school board. I'm the first to say I didn't know. I to this day I probably couldn't tell you what school board does. I probably should because I was running in my house. But it's like, what did you find when you really started to mobilize the PAC? Like, what sort of questions were you getting? What sort of interests? How were people responding to, hey, there's a movement here of let's get some folks in that actually represent our children and will fight for their best interest, versus, all right, look, the status quo is working. My kid's gone from 8:30 to 4:30 or whatever. The buses are running or whatever. Like, we think of school more as a functional thing as opposed to like really enriching our kids. So what sort of inquiries were people giving or input?
I mean, I think that's a good question. I think one of the ones that we often share, and we just shared it on the call, on a call with the Pittsburgh Brown Mamas Network, and shout out to Brown Mamas and Muffy Mendoza. But it's like, what school board district am I in? Right? Like, I think that was one of the, like,
and why is all the ones we have, why are they all the odd numbers?
Yeah. Like, I think people just didn't know who represented them. And that is a sign of, one, people have not been engaged, right? Like, there's something to be said about paying attention, but there's also something to be said about being engaged. Like, we have a school board that does not engage its constituents. Like, literally, as Elise said, a nearly $700 million budget, and you have elected officials that do not respond to people. We wrote letters to them. We got mobilized a lot of people to speak out against the superintendent's contract, right? We did all of these things, and they refused to engage. Now, if you have an elected official that refuses to engage with you, what choice do you leave us with? Like, we literally had no choice, right? And so I think we're in a position now where we have these great candidates that are of the community, right? They know how to talk to the community. They know how to build with the community, and now outside of the community, which is what happens with Pittsburgh Public Schools. And so we're really trying to ensure that, like, we have some responsible electeds. We don't have responsible electeds, like, for whatever reason. And people think, and I will say this, school board is volunteer. Like, it's a volunteer position in the state of Pennsylvania, right? So in other states, you can go, people make $50,000 on school board. They make money as a school board elected because they do a ton of work, but it is a volunteer position in Pennsylvania. And so I don't know if that's the reason why people don't pay attention, but literally they're over $700 million, right? They're over a bunch of development too. Whenever development happens in the region, it has to get approved by 3 taxing bodies, the city, the county, and the school district, right? Because tax incentives come from all of them. right? But people don't pay enough attention to it. They don't pay enough attention to it. And so, I think we're just in a place, right, where it's time to engage people and to continue to engage people and not have one set of advocates, because that's what people like to say, like, where did we come from? That's what an educational advocate said to us. Where did y'all come from? Who are they? Right? We need more voices at the table saying what should happen for kids. Right now, there's a set of voices, and not even a set. There's a single voice, and it's not fair.
So, I think it's I think that's really important. You said earlier, education is the first step to that, right? We often don't know what we don't know. And bringing that to the attention, I'm looking at, like, how do we utilize some of these lessons that you guys have learned, how you folks have learned, over the last year with this community engagement, and one of the questions that comes is, how do you take it from just social media posts to actual engagement, real action in the streets, right? Getting people to go to those in-person meetings. It's one thing to be like, share this post, but it's another thing to be like, show up at this place physically at this time and, let yourself be counted, right? And your voice be heard. How do you get those signatures? I mean, was it, are you knocking on doors? How do, even with the media, like, what steps do you take, to get in touch with the media? What are some of the ways that you were able to successfully take this from Facebook to the streets?
Well, first you stage a pandemic, so everyone has to stay at home and be a learning facilitator for the kid all day. So I mean that's a big piece of it. And so the fact that families have had and caregivers have had insight into an educational experience in a way that they never have. And so to literally be sitting over your child's shoulder and hear what's going on in the classroom, to have to be in constant contact with your district or not to be in contact in ways that you never have before, really just opens up a lot of just conversations and things that you really wouldn't expect. And so even at some of the school board meetings, which everything has been virtual with PPS since the pandemic, so all of the meetings have been online. Even the testimonies, if you're going to submit, you have to write it out and then somebody reads it to the school board during that time. I mean, hundreds of people have testified. I mean, of course, around school opening, don't open the schools, please open the schools. There was a lot of testimony around police in schools and whether or not the district should continue to have school police. And so folks are engaged in ways that they haven't been, simply because they're engaged in the education space in ways that they haven't been. In terms of also getting the message out. So when you are trying to get candidates onto the ballot, you do have to circulate a petition. And so you have to have folks who are in your political party sign the petition. So they had to go and knock on doors. And so, we had some leads in terms of folks who had been involved, women who had signed the letter, because the folks who were comfortable signing the letter did sign with their district. And so it's like, oh, okay, let's go out and connect with some of them. But some of it was just us going out on behalf of candidates and saying, here's the street list, because you can go and get the street list from the county elections department, and just going and knocking on doors and say, hey, can you support this person? They're running for school board. If you're dissatisfied with what you see, please go ahead and sign this petition. This doesn't mean that that you have to completely support this person, but that you want them to be on this ballot, to be someone that you can vote for in the primary. And knowing that in Pittsburgh, we live in a predominantly Democratic city, these races are won in the primary for the most part. So whoever wins now is likely going to be the person that is seated next year. Unless an independent comes up and runs in the general election, this person will kind of just be the only person on the ballot in November, and then they'll be in the seat, and they'll get sworn in end of December, early January. And so this is why this race is so important. I mean, same thing for mayor as well. Some of these races are really won right now in the primary.
So, and I apologize because, I really be drinking on this show. So I'd be missing some things at times. But So what exactly does a school board do? Like what power does the school, you know what I mean? Like
we never approached that.
Yeah, like what can a school board member do? How do they impact the community? Like, what is the importance of that position?
So, I mean,
She had the
again,
deep side. That was the mama side. I done told y'all.
Okay.
That's the I done told y'all.
So one, right? And I think this is very important, right? I think it's very important. You guys have a lot of listeners, right? So your school board is over, right? All of those tax dollars that come from your school district. So especially if you're in Pittsburgh, right? I think our Pittsburgh school tax, and for most municipalities, the school tax tends to be higher, right? But that school tax though all of those funds go to that district, and so the school board has the ability to do two things, I guess, that are set out by the state as duties of a school board. One, they are to pass a budget, right, and to be stewards of those financial resources. And two, they are to hire a superintendent to administer the carry out the duties of the district and to be a great shepherd for the district and all the things. But there are other things that are a part of that, right? That's overseeing the superintendent's performance, right? That is being a solid collaborator. Like, these are the in-between things that people that I don't think our school district does a good job of, but they are supposed to be good partners of other elected officials, right? Like, they aren't supposed to really work in silos, right? We have school buildings that need a lot of work. We have to transport our kids, right? They have to exist amongst these other partners because they can't do it alone. And so really two things are supposed to happen as it relates to the state in terms of, again, hiring the superintendent, and also, passing the budget and being, a good shepherd over those resources. But as it relates to that, right, it's so many things that go into that. To me, and to us, really, they should be listening to folks in their district about what's happening in their schools, right? So if parents are telling you that our kids cannot read, you know what I mean, but you sitting here so focused on, I don't know, a whole bunch of other things, right? But our kids cannot read. Well, what are you doing about that? You don't go and, like, I don't know, furlough all of the reading coaches, which is currently happening in Pittsburgh public schools. Like, they've gotten rid of a lot of literacy coaches. And so, like, those are the things that, a school board member should do. They should be just as responsive as any other elected official, but they have those two important jobs of choosing and hiring a superintendent and then passing a budget and being a good financial steward over that budget.
So I think that's a great segue into this next portion. So this is different for the drinking partners. We have guests within the guests. It's like Inception, right? So
that's why we put y'all first.
That's why we put y'all first, so y'all can educate the listeners on what exactly they are to look for. But we feel that it would be amiss if we did not allow the candidates in which the PAC endorses to come on and allow themselves to give the listeners a spiel. Maybe some of the listeners would have to be in some of the districts, right? And I don't know how much of our listenership is actually actively engaged in, voting for school board and whatnot. But I think it would be great. And we have actually 5 candidates that the PAC, Black Women for a Better Education have endorsed. We have them here. We're just going to allow each of them a couple of minutes to introduce themselves, the district that they're running to represent and their platform. So first we have, obviously, we're going to start it off with the name that I know I'm a butcher, but I'm going to get it right because we haven't been drinking that much. We have Grace Higginbotham.
You did get it.
Oh, got it.
Nice.
Okay, we in this joint. We in this joint. How you doing, Grace? Thank you for joining us.
I'm good. Thank you. You didn't say Higginbotham. You didn't say Higginbotham. You said Higginbotham with the TH. Good
Well,
job.
you know, when you don't know somebody's name, you use every letter.
Yeah, you sound like somebody I want to vote for just because I feel like, the children should hear like, folk tales about, you have a very folk tale name. I'm like Mrs. Higginbotham. Like that's a teacher that you
that
want.
That is a teacher, right? That's your favorite. That's your third grade teacher.
She drive a bus. Like
No bus. Second of all, my students used to call me Miss H. And third, my family butchers my last name.
So I think, and even in these questions and whatnot, I think it's just in general, I think people who are listening, whether, near or far, I think it's important for folks to understand, the type of individuals who are, like interested in these studies. And I think there's parallels, wherever you are at, that, in these stories and in here locally. Right. And I'd like to know the differences, if any, between, what's here, specifically in Pittsburgh, versus, maybe even national. But what brought you to this interview right now?
Well, I was invited by my endorsement.
Basically, we're asking, what district are you running in and what's your platform?
Okay. So my district, I'm running for school director of Pittsburgh Public Schools for District 1, which is, I'm going to give some of the community.
That sounds important. First.
It is. It's East Hills, Lincoln, Larmer, Belmar Gardens, Homewood, Regent Square, part of Shadyside, and parts of East Liberty.
Oh, that's the East. That's where we are.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you live in those areas and those communities, you are in my district. And hello to every one of you. One of the reasons why I decided to run for school board, first and foremost, I'm an educator. I taught for several years. I also was a special education advocate for several years for the county as well. I felt like it was the appropriate time to do my civic, duty. And instead of continuing to have conversations and getting upset about things, you actually, have to do something about it. So I decided to leap into what I did not know was going to be politics, which is now politics. And I'm figuring this out as I go along as well. I don't know everything, but one of my primary things, not just as a certified teacher, not just as an educator, not just as a Garfieldian, because that's where originally I'm from. I live in Homewood now. Yeah.
I think that was real.
And it was so smooth, too.
She threw that in like real. Okay.
You gotta have community pride. I have community pride in Homewood, but that's just not where I'm from. However, it is imperative that we talk about why I'm running for school board. I mean, it's all fun and games. We could joke and things like that, but I feel like the state of our children, our school district is in dire straits. So my goal is to educate community members on how the school board works first and foremost, which we already had some pre-conversation about that, and to empower and mobilize the same individuals to become active participants in creating an educational ecosystem of integrity, transparency, and accountability. So I'm going to simplify my platform a little bit because I realize that I don't want to speak at you. I want to speak to you. And you had a lot of questions. It seems like you don't have, we're going to scaffold as a teacher. We're going to scaffold our experiences here so we can make them connect. Okay. Because I want you to understand. I don't want to say a lot of big words and everybody's like, that sounds good, but I don't know what that.
Garfieldian and scaffolding.
Yeah. There were multiple syllables. I was just.
Garfieldian is a Gracism. I made that up, and I don't.
Said it with confidence. That's a real teacher. A teacher who say it with confidence. You've done some substitute. You had to walk into a class and just be like, listen, we ain't go.
I had to substitute with Pittsburgh Public Schools. It was not fun. But platform essentially is not just empowering and mobilizing the community first and foremost to have them understand what the school board does, how it works, and how as community members we can work it. Not just community members that have children, but community members and taxpayers that pay taxes. So it's three parts. We need to provide a platform for student voice. That would include teaching students about their civic responsibility, servant leadership, and how to properly mobilize, but also having strategic planning sessions and partnerships with educators that consist of meaningful engagement to give feedback on what's working, what's not working, best practices. That means what's happening in school, how they actually give direct instruction, which is the teacher actually standing in front of the class, teaching the students a actual skill. Interventions would be what we were talking about, the reading coaches. They provide interventions for students that are falling behind what they actually need to get where they need to be, either above grade level, at grade level, or what we would call steady progress. Okay. And then enrichments, because not all students are necessarily academically deficient. Some students actually have GIEPs or gifted, and they need to be enriched in a specific kind of way. And they'll give us those snapshots in real time. But also, last but certainly not least, networking and relationship building. So how I look at the district is we can no longer afford to have separate entities. So we have the school board, we have the administrators, we have teachers, we have students, and then we have the community, and they're all fragmented in certain ways. So how can we get that to be more harmonious, which is why I said the ecosystem. So it's my goal to evaluate the current relationships the district has and partnerships that the district currently has, but also to tirelessly work to rebuild the breach of trust that they have had, a chasm with the community, first and foremost, and to provide a fresh perspective, a fresh set of eyes, and to do my part in moving the district, Pittsburgh Public Schools, forward in a productive and a positive way.
So I just quickly, one of the things that kind of stood out, you said the folks that, don't have kids, but also are paying into the district and whatnot, for the folks that are listening right now that don't have kids, why should they care about the school district if they're not sending kids to it?
Because you still pay.
District, your prices, your house
You're still directly affected by it. We're all affected by it in different ways. I would say there's levels to this, as we would say. There's levels to this. So if you're a taxpayer in the district, you're paying taxes to a said school district. You may not have children now, but you may want to have them in the future. Do you feel like this is a district that you want to send your children to? You're supporting others' children, Black, brown, white, it doesn't matter, Asian, Latino children in the district. What are your thoughts on that? Even if you haven't thought about it, let's take a minute to think about that.
No, one, you brought a lot of stuff for me to think about, and we appreciate your time. We do need to have, if folks want to connect with you in your campaign, where can they find you?
So I am on Facebook. Elise just told me I needed to get a website, so I was working on that.
You got all the website words, scaffold and Garfillian.
Well, you learned something new. I left you with a new word, scaffolding.
So if they want to follow your campaign, just find you at Grace Higginbotham right now, and then there's a site forthcoming.
Yeah, for Pittsburgh Public Schools District 1. And there's a website to. You can also email me at graceforpps1@gmail.com.
All right. Well, if you get it up in the next couple of weeks, we'll connect offline, get that information from you so we can put it in the chat. Thank you again for joining us. Now we have to continue through our gauntlet of candidates as Day and I play CNN correspondents. So that's Grace Higginbotham for District 1. We are now going to bring in Salauddin. I hope I said that correctly. I'm pressing my luck here.
What's up?
All right. Wait. Welcome, sir. We appreciate you joining us.
Do you play the saxophone?
That's a good question to open.
I do not.
You just look like a very jazzy individual, sir. I like the background, the way you came in there. You know what I mean?
Yo, his discipline is smooth as hell. Right? You being coached.
Yeah, I mean, you look like you went to Hillman. You know what I mean? Like it's a.
I listened to John Coltrane all my life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. Yes. Lady Day.
Yeah.
So tell us about the district in which you're running and your platform, sir.
Well, I spent 11 years on Pittsburgh City Council. So people may recognize my name from Pittsburgh politics. But after I retired from City Council, I still maintained a love for my people. I'm from the Hill District, born and raised. Mm-hmm. And when I looked around and saw what was happening with the young people in my district, I was very, very dissatisfied. And as I looked closer, I discovered that there is a crisis. There's a crisis in education. I learned that our children are not able to read. They have not learned how to read at grade level by the third grade, and that only a small percentage of them were able to read competently at all. And so I decided to come back out of political retirement. I was running the August Wilson Center downtown.
Okay.
And got involved in the school board race because if we are not able, we need a change, brothers. A large part of the community are just like the community that you described. They're not engaged in the education of the little ones in the community. When you ask me, what does the school board do? Now, I've been on the school board for 4 years already. When you ask me, what does the school board do? The school board shapes our kids' minds. So if you have kids that you care about, whether or not they're your own or somebody else's or your nieces or nephews, you care about who is shaping their minds.
Yeah, they're shaping the community.
Because that determines
shaping the future,
their life. And so we need, I got on the school board to ring the alarm that there is a crisis in education right now, and our children, especially Black children, are not being educated at the level that they need. And if we don't change flip the script on this, it's a matter of life and death with us. Life and death, whether kids get educated or not. So that's why I decided to run. Teachers and the school district have a tremendous obligation to provide that educational foundation that our kids need. They are not doing it. They're failing. And they have a kind of a mediocre or a complacent attitude about providing quality education for our kids. Not just babysitting, but quality education is what they need to help them be successful as adults. And we need the adults in the community have to get involved. You cannot sit back anymore and let this be a child care program, a babysitting program. Adults have to get engaged. And that's why I love the Black Women for Better Education. I looked around. I, quite frankly, was thinking about not running again for a second term on the school board because I wasn't being successful in turning around the habits and the culture of complacency on the school board. But when I ran into the candidates that are part of this slate, I said, now, and when they opened their arms, because they were going to run a slate of 5 candidates, when they opened their arms to allow me to join their slate of candidates, I said to myself, that is worth running again. And so I'm on their slate. I'm happy to be on their slate. The people that you're going to be interviewing are some of Pittsburgh's finest minds and thinkers. And with them on the school board, we can turn this thing around.
So a lot of folks aren't engaged, whether they be parents or folks that are in the community who, again, like I'm glad that you said that, like why people who don't have kids, should care and whatnot, because like you're shaping the future with the school board and whatnot. What are some of the hurdles that, parents in the community run into, or just folks in the community run into when it comes to, the engagement? Like, I feel like, I feel like most parents care about their kids and the well-being and whatnot. So if they're not engaged, there's some reason to that or whatever. And typically some ill in society. So what are those hurdles? And how does the PAC seek to address that?
First of all, that's a good question. I think we need to understand that the parents not being engaged is not their fault. It's the school district's obligation to open up the doors, to open up the information, to invite them in and get them engaged. And the school district hasn't done that because the school district does not want to be held accountable. The school district knows that they are failing our kids, and if they let all these parents and adults in, their warts are going to show. And so they don't make the information easy to obtain. Mm. And that's what this team of candidates have pledged to do. They are going to not wait on parents to get engaged. They're going to take themselves out into the community and engage the parents themselves. Mm. That's what we have to do.
So, Sala, love your perspective. Love the tenet of engagement, right? I think that will help just turn it into whether it's from a structural or political standpoint, just engagement will help turn it around. For our listeners, can you let them know what district in which you're running and where they can find your campaign?
Sure. I'm in District 3. That includes the Hill District, Garfield, parts of Friendship, but primarily it's the Hill District zone. Okay. And I would encourage everybody, of course, information about the 3rd District can be found on the school board's website, but I would encourage people to check out the Black Women for Better Education website. That's where they're going to get the real information before they go on to other sources of information.
I think we appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us, sir.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate you jumping in, man. Everybody who wants to find Mr. Udine, go to Black Women for Better Education. Look up District 3. We're going to move on to our next candidate. We got a little bit of a time crunch here, but we appreciate you again and best of luck in your campaign, sir.
Thank you.
Before we get to the next one, I just want to say, man, I just poured up some of this Ruby Shaman from Grist House, and this shit is delicious.
Yeah, right? we've been drinking it. We've been trying to be muted. We have still been drinking it.
Yeah, we still drink it on this show, and man, this is like Kool-Aid. It's like is it politically? Is Cherokee Red still a thing? Is that a pop? Is that even
that's
allowed
the
to say
old
that?
school dip.
Yeah, the Cherokee Red.
That's why barbecue.
At the barbecue.
The barbecue.
Boy, look, you grew up in the right neighborhood. The parents used to bring that to the game. You're like, I'm not running any faster off this Cherokee Red. This is killing my athleticism.
I appreciate that this is digital, but y'all gonna have to find a way to share them drinks. Yeah. If y'all gonna be drinking.
Hey, you don't say that, brother. You got a campaign to run.
Well, this is gonna make running a little easier.
No, it's real people.
Take some of that stress off.
These are real people on the slate.
True. Like I said, that again. We as we mentioned earlier. Shout out to Tavor. Later this year, we're releasing a 16-pack, all Black-owned collab. So not only can you drink from a distance digitally, but you can also support Black-owned businesses while doing so. So, shout out to Grist House, also going to be a part of the fest. And, again, thanks for all the candidates coming in.
Thank you. Hey, again, Mr. D, thank you. And we're going to move on we have Tracy Reed here in the building. I think still present. So we can have you on mute. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. I'm Tracy Reed. I'm running for school board director in District 5. That includes neighborhoods of Lincoln Place, Greenfield, Hazelwood, Somerset, Swiss Elm Park, Glen Hazel, and parts of Southside, South and Central Oakland, and South Squirrel Hill. And it includes just 3 schools. It's Greenfield, Mifflin, and Minadeo Elementary Schools.
All them places in just 3 schools? That sounded like 13 schools that you...
No.
You named neighborhoods I never heard of.
Yeah, well, all the high schools are in, or the high school that's our feeder is in District 4. So we don't have a high school in District 5.
So is that something that like a school board member would push for? Like, how would that work? I mean,
so I think that the real issue with regard to the real issue around schools and the way our district lines are drawn is that most people in Pittsburgh don't send their children to their neighborhood school. And yet we are represented by people according to our neighborhood. So that's what becomes really, really tricky, because most of the time, the person who represents you on school board, the person you can vote for school board, does not necessarily represent the school that your kids go to. Like for me and my kids, it's never been the case that for K to 5, we had the same school board representative. She represented the school that my kids attended. And since then, for the last 8 years, that hasn't been the case. So it becomes really difficult. Again, another reason that it's difficult for parents to engage is simply because you don't know who to go to. So you go to the school board member who represents your community, but that person doesn't necessarily represent the school that your kids go to. So so maybe you go to the school board member who represents the school that your kids go to, but you don't have any leverage or you haven't helped to elect that person.
So I'm sorry if it has already been covered, but what is your background? And
so I was a high school English teacher, and a million years ago, I have a PhD in education policy, and I think the thing that sort of makes me most qualified for school board is that I attended a high performing, all Black, all low income Pittsburgh public elementary school. Now that was a million years ago, because when has there been a high performing all Black, all low income public school in Pittsburgh? It was a really long time ago, but that experience helped me to understand that we can create great schools for Black children for low income and Black children.
So what are the skill sets that, coming from teaching? So you have the experience, right? You've seen the system, from the inside, but, going into, as I mentioned earlier, like politics, how does that change? I mean, like, what are you finding in this journey? Some of the skills that you've had to learn in this new role.
Right. So one of the things that I've had to learn is that I've spent my career in education, peripherally, either in a classroom or with regard to education policy. I now work for a foundation. We support education efforts, that kind of thing. So I've spent my professional life in and around education. So I have a certain vocabulary, a certain way of talking about schools, a certain way of approaching issues that does not necessarily translate to running for a public, sort of elected position. And so part of what I've had to do is really think about what does this mean for not the person who might know a great deal about education policy or might look across the landscape of Pittsburgh public schools and have some, understanding of what's happening, but for a person who sends their kids to school every day. Like, what does this particular issue look like for them? And so that's when I talked about having a school board member who represents your community, but not necessarily your kid's school. Like, that has come from personal experience and from talking to people, not only in my district, but talking to people throughout the city about their concerns with regard to, who represents them on the school board.
So if you could,
Yeah.
I mean, because again, just with the time crunch, if you could quickly just kind of, with those concerns that have been expressed to you or what you've seen in District 5, how would you summarize your platform of sorts, and then where can folks find you to connect with you?
Sure. So I think that there are a couple things that we need to be doing in Pittsburgh Public. One, we need to focus on good governance. I don't think there is a really good way for residents, for taxpayers to really impact how school board members vote. People talk all the time about how we can go to a school board meeting and we can testify, but that doesn't necessarily translate into like school board members paying attention to that testimony. I don't even know what happens with that testimony. It just becomes part of a record. And I don't know that it actually impacts how school board members vote. And so that for me feels like bad governance. We need to do a better job. We need to find some other ways that parents, that kids, that taxpayers throughout the region, throughout the city can impact what happens on school boards. We also need to revisit our district's technology plan. Like the district clearly wasn't ready for the pandemic, but no school was ready for the pandemic. We do have to remember, though, there were schools that didn't spend a lot of time getting ready. They were able to pivot quickly. And one of the reasons that we weren't was because we didn't have a cohesive technology plan that really took into account who has devices, who does not have devices, et cetera. And we also have realized, I think as a nation, we've realized that we can do a lot more with regard to effective distance learning that we haven't really engaged in so far. So we need a good technology plan that will sort of scaffold that ability to do well with distance learning. And then we need to be really innovative. When our kids go back to school, we can't send them back to school and have them doing the exact same thing they were doing when they left a year ago. We have to be thinking really creatively about how we account for the lack of instruction that our kids have experienced.
I didn't know there was going to be so much scaffolding in the teaching position. I mean,
there's a lot of scaffolding.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, is that 1F, 2F?
I don't know, man.
I've been over here trying to Google on the low, but everybody can see me.
Did y'all do a roofing too? Can we get top-down approach? You know what I mean?
I think as though I really love the approach to the tech. I mean, the digital divide is real, and it's become like it's bloviated of sorts now that everyone's digital. So for folks in District 5 or folks just interested, man, check out, where did you say they can find your campaign? I'm sorry, did you?
I'm on Facebook at Tracy for PPS. It's TRACEY for PPS, and a website that's under construction or in construction. It's tracy4pps.weebly.com.
Weebly, yes. And we want to, again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And again, we want to wish you much success in your campaign.
Thanks.
And hopefully folks listening will jump on. And if you don't have the internet, she'll help you get it for you and your kids. So we're gonna move on to our next candidate. I'm telling you, bro, we could use this as an audition tape.
This is rolling along very
Fox
nicely.
News.
I was a little. I was like,
bring a little bit of humor. We're holding our own, even though people are using words we don't use normally.
Listen, man, Don Lemon needs some competition, man. He ain't holding it down.
He need a hairline too.
We coming for you, Don.
We coming for you, Don. But this next candidate, I'm very familiar with her and her campaign because I think that this happens largely on my Wi-Fi. So we're going to bring in Camille Scantling. Introduce yourself, your district, and why you're running.
Hi, y'all.
Well, damn, don't act like you know us.
Yeah, you're supposed to come on like you ain't been on the podcast 5 times already. You know what I mean? You're supposed to act new.
No. So for the listeners listening, I'm Camille Scantling. I am running for Pittsburgh Public Schools District 7 School Board. And just for some context, neighborhoods included in District 7 would be Allentown, Arlington, Beachview, Bon Air, Carrick, East Brookline, Knoxville, Mount Oliver, Overbrook, parts of Southside Flats, and parts of the Southside Slopes. So if you live in any of those neighborhoods, please pay close attention. The schools that are included in that district are Arlington, pre-K through 8, Concord, Roosevelt, Phillips, Southbrook, Carrick High School, and Online Academy. So if you know students who attend those schools, this is also for you. So I'm primarily running for the PPS school board because I have children who are in this district and I am concerned. I also know that I have created things with a radical approach to social issues, like really deep-seated issues. And I think that Pittsburgh Public Schools needs that type of radical change in order to turn around a lot of the damage that's been done over the past 20 or so years. So, with the work that I've done with my Black Business Directory, Cocopreneur, that work kind of makes me an ideal candidate for turning around Pittsburgh Public Schools, or at least bringing ideas that can help do that. So my track record is pretty proven. I founded Cocopreneur with the Black Business Directory. I co-founded Greenwood Week, which is the Black business conference that helps pretty much create more businesses for the directory. And then most recently, raised over $100,000 for Black businesses during a pandemic, right? So I'm a very solutions-oriented person, and I solve hard problems. But again, I have a very close interest in Pittsburgh Public because I have children who will be in this district. And I am not going to send my kids to schools for the sake of saying I send them to Pittsburgh Public Schools if the schools are failing my kids. Ideally, I would like to be able to send my kids to my neighborhood school, the school that's right down the street from me, but I'm not going to do that and sacrifice the quality of education for my kids. So, and I understand that this is the same for most other parents. So when I think about Pittsburgh Public Schools as a district, I start to think about what would it look like if we ran the district more like a socially conscious business, right? And the students and the families, those are your customers. If you want to keep your customers, you need to satisfy your customers and give them products and services that actually serve their needs, right? If we looked at Pittsburgh Public School District this way, we might actually be able to bring more customers into the district and, fill up some of these buildings that they're trying to close because of the maintenance costs, because they're housing students in inefficient buildings because there's not enough students to fill them, right? So what does it look like to bring more kids into the district? What does it look like to have Pittsburgh be a place where people are moving to the city because it has a good school district? Like, what does Pittsburgh look like if that is the case, right? So I'm trying to foster that for Pittsburgh Public Schools and for the city in general, because and some of this has been mentioned before about how kids are our future, but kids are literally our right now. Like they are our immediate predecessors for this work that we're doing.
They're always in the streets, man. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Get out of the street, kid. They definitely are now. Like, come on. Like, what are you doing?
Let's be real. They're serving your orders at Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and everything else. Like, it would be nice if
they're always forgetting the ranch.
Listen, what if they had enough critical thinking skills through their schooling to help them understand that, right? You're giving people 12 sauces, but no napkins. That doesn't make sense. Like,
yo, what's up with the napkin ratio? Why would you even bring that up? Like, now I'm tight. Napkin ratio be all.
That's a school board issue.
That's a class that they need. That's an econ class.
When you teach people to think critically, when you teach people about these things, cause and effect, and, just kind of these seemingly basic things, it does help create more constructive human beings, right? Like we think about the fact that as we get older and we're living in this district, the people who are in school now are going to be the adults later on. Mm-hmm. What type of adults do you want running the city? Like, I just like we need to invest in the people who we want to be our citizens going forward. So, that's a big reason for why I'm running.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to ask her questions.
I'm there for you, man. So as a transplant, and you mentioned, radical ideas and whatnot. What are some of those, I guess, how does being a transplant in this city allow you to formulate some of these radical ideas? I would imagine that, there are things that are happening, outside, maybe in the school district you grew up in, or, where your family is from, and seeing, the differences a lot of times, and even, a lot of, even the candidates, we're like, I'm from Pittsburgh. I grew up here. I live here. I don't, a lot of my lens is just from a very Pittsburgh lens. How does that, how does that transplant lens kind of help you, formulate some of these radical ideas and thoughts to move the city forward?
Yeah, I would say that it definitely helps with the ideas. So I grew up in a district, East Orange, New Jersey, very Black city, demographically, right? So it's probably 98% Black. And when I started elementary school, all of our schools were named after presidents and things like that. And when I was in elementary school, they renamed all of our schools in the district to notable Black people to reflect the students and the people around. And I didn't realize, it's like you take it for granted, but I didn't realize how important that was, because it introduced me to this notion that people who look like me can achieve great things, right? And not just people who look like me, but people who are from where I'm from, who have the same backgrounds. I might be able to run into these people. You know, my high school, Cicely Tyson came to my high school every year. Every year she came to our high school and brought back Black talent with her. Tyler Perry, Derek Luke, like she brought these people through. So for Pittsburgh Public, and Pittsburgh Public is what, 56% Black? Somebody correct me on that number if I'm not.
We're not going to be able to do that. We're going to be looking to the PAC to do that.
But Pittsburgh Public Schools is more than 50% Black. And we just don't see that type of reflection in the staff for PPS. We don't see it in the buildings and in the spaces. Just think about how it empowers students to see people who look like them do great things, people they can identify with. So those ideas, and this does not have to just be about Black students, right? Up here in the South gets left out all the time in all the conversations around, you know, building Pittsburgh back up. We always hear about the East or the North. We never hear about the South. So for people in the South, what does it look like to big up people in the South and show the pride that the South has, right?
South got something to say.
Right, exactly. Like these things should be reflected in the schools. This should be something that is a part of how we condition people to look at themselves. And a lot of that happens in school. So I think that those radical ideas absolutely have been influenced by things that I've seen versus where I live now in Pittsburgh.
So I think, you know, when you say radical, it may seem like that here, but you know, seeing the success of your school and your school district, and I've had, you know, the opportunity to talk to you about Cicely Tyson and all of that. I don't think it's radical at all. I think it should be the norm. I think it should be the goal. I think being Black and active is a radical idea in and of itself. I mean, you can't say that Black women for a better education.
I mean, it is. That's
out here, bro.
And that's that is. I mean, like, you know, it's controversial to be Black centric. I mean, right. in this country. So, you know, the idea of being engaged and saying, hey, we want fair representation to a lot of people, you know, like is, you know, they're like.
But I think when you say Black centric, right, and I'm not pushing back against your point, but I'm saying having to characterize it as such, I think is the problem, right? It's just bigging up the people in which you interact. Like these are the people I'm around. These my folks. Like nobody goes to Squirrel Hill and say they're Jewish centric. You know what I mean? It's just Squirrel Hill.
But you have to.
You just know what it is with Squirrel Hill. You just know what it is.
Yeah,
you know
but
let me say this to y'all though, right? It's not radical because it's Black centric. It's radical because it's so starkly different from what we've been doing, and that's why it's radical. It's this complete 180.
Right.
What's been presented before. That's what makes it radical. Not so much, you know, the Black centric, because again, my district, District 7, is not so much heavily Black as much. It's like the issue up here is not as much race as it is socioeconomics.
Right.
Right. And the fact that poor white people get treated the exact same way as Black people.
They act like they don't,
socioeconomic status.
They try to act like they don't.
We get left, the South and their socioeconomic status gets left behind too, because we know poor people don't get treated the same. They don't get the same type of reverence. Their questions don't get answered as quickly. So, you know, we still have something to fight against from a socioeconomic standpoint up in District 7, but that requires radical change too.
So where can folks find, you know, information on this radical change that you're looking to bring? How can they connect with your campaign?
Yeah, they can visit my website. It's camilleforpps.com, and that's KHAMIL.
Tell them.
FORPPS.com. And if you want a more interactive experience, then you can just find Camille for PPS on Facebook.
Well, thank you for your time and coming on and sharing, your thoughts. If you're looking again, if you're in District 7, make sure you connect with Camille. Get a fresh perspective. I know like a lot of the theme of the candidates that we've spoken to, it's a fresh perspective. It's a new way of going about things, but it's an appropriate way. Mm-hmm. So again, best of luck with your campaign.
Maybe we'll run into you sometime again at some point.
I might see you later.
In the future,
I don't know
maybe.
if I'm supposed to give you a kiss. What do I do? Like, do I blow a kiss in the camera? How do I hang up from my lady?
So
and she know that we at the end of the podcast too. So I gotta be home.
Bye.
So before we get to the next guest, I just want to say, Buzzy, our producer, just poured this smoked lager.
Speaking of fresh perspective,
smoked lager, yo. I mean, this shit, like, it's definitely the preferred drink of cowboys. This is a ranch beer. I mean, this motherfucker. This
is cowboy Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, it is. Yo, this shit is fire.
I say that the actual name for that style is Rosh beer.
Rosh beer. It sounds like some shit that you got Spurs on while you drink this shit. It stands to reason it would be called a smoked lager, a Rosh beer from Suarez Family Brewing out in New York. I don't know how this is not a New York beer.
I'm not gonna say that.
What's old boy what was it? City Slickers? Yeah, this is a City Slickers beer.
City Slickers.
Yeah, remember that movie City Slickers where it was a cowboy and he went down from New York or whatever? This is a City Slickers beer. So shout out to Suarez Family, man. Like, they make some of the best lagers that I've had. I mean, Buzzy's always got some in the fridge. So, shout out to those folks.
Hold on. So we're drinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and we want to continue to do such. So in order to do so, what we're going to do is bring on our last candidate. Mm-hmm. We have Gene Walker in the building. Do we have Gene in the building? Do we have?
Yes, sir. What's up, fellas?
Hey, what's going? See, we got two brothers on. We was talking about the Black women for better education. I'm like, we gotta get some brothers on. Then we had Sala, and then we got my man G. So I'm happy now.
Yeah,
and he's bearded too.
He's bearded and bald. He's a man of my own. Yeah, we kindred spirits out here.
We need more bald, bearded brothers in the school district.
I get sick of talking to folks with hairlines, man. It's taxing.
I got a hairline.
Yeah, I know. I'm here this many years.
Anti-hairline.
Goddamn sick of sitting across from this dude, man. It'd be like, so nice to see you, brother.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
I feel like I should be able to see you in your forehead, but it's digital. So
I don't know if you're gonna say that, but we just met him.
It's clean. Yeah, I mean that's like he just shaved today.
So if you could let the folks know what district you're running from, or is it running for or running from? I hope you're running for your district. You running from it? Well, you're running, but you're coming out of the district, running for school. I don't know. Let them know who you are.
I got you. So, yeah, I'm Gene Walker. I'm running for District 9. So that covers a pretty wide area. Parts of Brighton Heights, Perry Hilltop, Perry North, parts of Marshall Shadeland, Summerhill, and then over into the West End. So Oakwood, Wrenchmont, Crafton Heights, Chartier City, Westwood, Ferrywood, Elliott, Espen, East Carnegie, Sheridan, and Wind Gap. So pretty diverse. And then school-wise, we're looking at Chartier's Early Childhood Center, Pittsburgh Classical 6-8, the Gifted Center, Langley K-8, Morrow Pre-K-8, and then Perry High School are the schools that I would represent. So just a little bit about me. I'm a Pittsburgh kid. Half of my early childhood in the Homewood, Lincoln, Larmer area. And then after middle school, my mom moved to Garfield, graduated from Peabody in 94, and then moved to Eastern PA to go to college. And then stayed out there after I met a girl and hung out to make sure that worked out. We got married, had a couple of kids. I was going to drop out of college. And then I met this girl and I stayed in college for a year and it worked out. So that's a good thing.
Don't women be leading us to the promised land? Boy, they be leading us.
Well, she's still here after 20 some years. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. But I came back to Pittsburgh in 2009 because I had an opportunity to work for the Pittsburgh Promise. And I spent just under 9 years with the Promise. And in that time, I've been able to watch my son graduate from Pittsburgh Public Schools 2 years ago. He's a second-year student at Pitt. And my daughter is graduating from Pittsburgh Public in weeks and then heading off to Waynesburg University. So I've been able, from a work perspective, to observe the school district as a pseudo insider with my time with the Promise, but then as a parent. And on both fronts, there are lots of good things about Pittsburgh Public, which is why I kept my kids in the district. But there's lots of things that we need to change and things we need to do different. So most of my experience with the school district comes from my time at the Promise, where I worked to implement programming that helped students achieve. So we did college tours, we did mentoring for Black males and Black females. We did tax prep, we did FAFSA prep so that kids could get their school financial aid stuff done, like everything that was built around helping students achieve and improving their outcomes. But we didn't do any of that just because Gene Walker said, hey, this is a good thing to do. We did it because I talked to students, I talked to parents, I talked to teachers and administrators, and figured out what they wanted and what they needed. And I think that's what's lacking right now. Right now, our school board is making decisions based off of the best interest of the school board member and the people that they represent, but not the students and families that they represent. So I want to bring that voice of the people back to the board table, and not just during campaign season. Like, I don't want to be the guy that gets elected and then you don't see me again until the next election. I'm going to be out in the community talking to folks, making sure that I'm taking their ideas to the table. And the way that I govern is pretty simple. I have a simple philosophy. If it's not good for kids' outcomes and achievement, then I don't want to be a part of it, and we're not going to do it. And so my hope is that all 5 of us that you talked to today get on the board, because I know that all 5 of us have a similar mindset. Every question, every decision goes through the lens of, does it work for kids? Does it help them achieve better? Does it improve Pittsburgh Public Schools? And if it doesn't do those things, then we're just simply not going to do it. So my platform is 3-pronged. We're going to start with the budget. Our budget's out of control. The current board, many of them, not all of them, but many of them have allowed the school district to spend more money than they bring in for the last 4 years. And we just can't live that way. So we want to make sure that our budget is in check. We want to make sure that we're using partnerships and uniting both our teachers and our educators and our public and private sector and nonprofit to make sure that we're giving our students the experience that other kids in other school districts are getting. And then finally, we want to make sure that our schools become a place where our students are cared for, and they know that. And that's through making sure that their teachers and their principals stay there for longer than a year or 2. So I'll give you an example. Here at Perry High School, they've had at least a half a dozen principals in the last 10 years. How can a school district, how can a school progress?
I'm about to say,
man. Cleveland Browns of the school, the high schools. Mad
with similar results.
They don't draft well.
I'm from Cleveland, so we can eliminate this whole 10 minutes. We can knock this. This could be gone.
They need a line. Invest in a line.
But, at the end of the day, you got to give Cleveland credit. They did kick somebody this year a couple of times.
Credit. That's not a thing.
Bro, go to Cleveland.
No,
I'm trying to save my 10 minutes, man.
Yeah. You good.
I'm a politician right now.
He hating, bro. Go to Cleveland. Cleveland popping right now. Cleveland popping.
But really, what I'm looking at, we need a board that is going to fight for kids and fight for their families and make sure that they're getting the best education possible.
So, I'm sorry. So the one of the most the most least represented in the teaching field are Black males. There's very, very few in education. Why and what are some ways that the school board can help to address that issue? Because representation was brought up before, you know what I mean? And while young Black men need that representation as well. So how can we lean on our school boards to help solve that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And one, the answer is like super hard. But it really comes down to helping, especially young Black men, see themselves as teachers. And so I don't know how your school experience was, but I can remember one Black male teacher coming through K to 12. And so for me, I didn't envision myself as a teacher because I never saw it. And so it starts with helping young men understand that it's possible. So that means like we got to start now, and it might take 10, 15 years to build up that equity in our students for them to be able to see it. And then secondly, we have to make school a place people want to go. And so, as a Black man, if I go through school and it's the worst experience I've ever had, the last thing I want to do is go back into that on the other end. And so we have to both make it, possible for us to see ourselves in that position, but then we also have to make the experience enjoyable enough that we want to go back and be that change. So it's not a short-term fix. It's going to take a long time, but it has to be a focused effort. So we can't just drop the ball because we got one. We can't drop the ball because our superintendent's Black and is a Black man, right? We gotta raise the bar, and we gotta show that in every day, in every way. And it can't just be the football coach or the basketball coach.
I was going to say, at East Cleveland, it was typically the superintendent was a Black dude, and then the basketball coach was also a Black dude. The football coach, I don't even know if he worked at the school. I don't know what he did. He just was the coach.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't a janitor or nothing. He worked at the light company.
Office.
He just worked at the light company. I'm like, So, real quick, and I wanted to ask, and I haven't asked a lot of the candidates. So you have this wide net of spots that you cover within your district, right? How do you manage that? Because I would imagine, I don't know Win Gap, but for example, I don't know if their experience is the same as the typical individual who's growing up right around Perry High School. So how do you balance the needs when your reach is so far with your district?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that yet because I haven't had to do it, but
right,
we're working on it. We're working on it through the campaign, right? It's about getting out into the communities and talking to folks. And the only way we're going to know what their issues are and how to begin to solve them is to talk to them. And so my guess is, and I'm sure some of the other candidates will say this, right? When you knock on somebody's door, they're ready to vote for you just because you knocked on their door, because no one else has ever knocked on their door. And so that's step one, right? You got to show up once. Step two is you got to keep showing up for them. And my guess is that their issues are not too terribly different than anybody else's, but they just want to be able to tell it, and they want someone to listen and then take it to the board table and act on it.
So, what is your favorite form of potato?
The cooked kind. Anything my wife makes, if she puts it on a plate, smart I will eat it.
Man.
Smart.
She is
God.
Blink twice if you're over me.
Smart. Let me tell you something. Nothing
she holding the camera right now?
Nothing he said prior to this, if that didn't get your vote, that last piece.
That is wow. He said he'd vote politics vote. Dude. Man, he is on.
My mama taught me that. You gonna eat what I cook. I damn sure gonna eat what you cook.
That might be the best goddamn answer.
The best advice anybody could give anyone in school. Eat what your mama cook. Maybe she'll extend your curfew. And that's not exactly what the school board member's supposed to be trying to do. But so let the folks know where let the folks know where they can find your campaign or get in contact.
Yeah. So they can find me at my website, Gene Walker for District 9, and that's FOR for District 9. Same way on Facebook. And then they can find me on Twitter at Gene Walker for PPS.
And man, we want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for running, man. We need more brothers, to get involved with these sort of things. I myself would do it, but I got Camille doing it for me. So
hey, it's all good. We need some people to run, and we need some people to help push us as we're running. So thanks for pushing us, fellas.
Thank you. And we need, what we need? And I'm very proud to be a part of the Black Fathers Picking Up His Kids Alliance. All right. Like, I show up it's a whole, like, they roll out the red carpet when the black dad pick up his kids. What? Your kid run to you and smile? Like she know you was coming to pick her up. You know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't this is a last minute adjustment thing. Bro, I be feeling like a star. I got shoes just for the pickup. I changed my shoes.
Can I ask something real quick? Because I went to pick her up from school the other day, and they had to call somebody like, who is this lady? I said, wow, they don't even know who I am.
They know me. They know when I pull up. When I pull up, first of all, I'm playing music that they not supposed to hear. Because I want them to know that she comes from a real household.
2 miles an hour.
I forget to turn my radio down every time I go to pick up my daughter. And I pull up like, Dad, they all knew I was coming. But look, we want to thank all the candidates. So Elise and LaTrenda, really quick before we go, we want to just to wrap one. We want to thank you for this political action committee, right? This is dope, right? I think for myself, I went to the East Cleveland School District, and I don't remember, and I don't know that it was the case or not, but I don't remember the parents being as involved from a structural standpoint, getting involved in the politics of, like, we always look at, as children, we know the parents who are super involved, right? We know the kid whose mom comes to all the games, whose dad comes to the games. There was the one kid whose mom was the crossing guard and got to know the kids. And that's great. And that is very valuable. But if there's no one at the foundation of it all, kind of affecting how the politics go, how these things go, will you see change? So we as Drinking Partners really want to commend you all for putting this together, and thank you for your time and bringing your candidates through to talk to us. Dave's going to ask you a question that you don't have to answer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But it is going to be posed to both the leads. Actually, should we do all the... So we did Gene. We might as well get all of them.
Might as well. Go through it.
Go one by one. We'll start with Elise.
So what is your favorite form of potato?
And mind you, now, this might be the thing that gets the vote.
And that is, I'm telling you, it is controversial. We've had some very controversial answers here.
Pick the wrong form of potato, we're going to talk about it.
I'm just going to go ahead and say fried. I mean, it is what it is.
What kind?
Just a whole ass potato fried?
You just cook the whole thing in grease?
I just throw the whole thing in grease. No,
you ain't going to skin it or nothing? Just throw the whole potato in the grease? Okay.
The French fries. Yeah.
What kind of French fry? What's your...
Like, I mean, them old school ones where your mama cut up the potato, leave a little skin on the end, put it in the hot grease.
Hand cut,
fry.
Not the machine hand cut, but you mean like somebody like the old school peel it.
Yeah, like your mama get that knife out and cut it.
That's a whole different experience.
Pour it up and stick it, and then put it on the paper towel, let the grease come out. Yeah,
paper towel. First of all, black households utilize the paper towel in more ways than any other household. We got so many. Paper towels could be mops.
Wow.
They could be microwave covers. Do you wet your paper towel and sprinkle it over the plate of leftovers? Yeah, you gotta, because the condensation.
Keep that moisture in your blood.
There you go.
Did you skin the potatoes, or did you just cut them up and throw them in with the skin on?
I mean, I guess it depends on what mama got going on. I mean, sometimes you gotta be quick with it, so it's just gonna go in. But if you got a little time, you feeling fancy, you can go ahead and peel the potato.
Man.
See, I would vote for somebody that you endorse by virtue of your mama making you those type of fries. She didn't. So everyone, black women for a better education are not with or Ida fries. All right, you do it yourself. Trenda, we got to ask you. We know you muted. What's your favorite form of potato? I don't even like saying that.
My favorite form of a potato is, and everyone, I need you all to write this down. It is black, the number 4. Okay, or black women, the number 4, a bettereducation.com. Okay.
Oh, she stays on message.
Because I need y'all to go.
She's on message.
And check out the website, put in your email so we can connect you with the candidate in your district and you can support. Okay. I love potatoes. And so I really like baked potatoes, right? And I love my baked potatoes with sour cream, cheese, bacon, butter, salt and pepper. I'm a huge baked potato person, but black women, the number 4, a bettereducation.com.
Hold on, we got a whole
Black-
little
black-
segment where we give them the where can they find you? We got you on
Black
that,
women
Trenda. We
for.
got you. We got
Well,
you.
I'm just saying it again in case they forgot.
We gonna tie you in. We got you.
I'm gonna go look for that bag at Walmart. You know what I mean? I'm gonna look for that.
I thought when she said black for, I'm like, where'd she get this?
Yeah,
from?
I'm like, oh, they about to get
That's
something.
an Eddie V potato. I don't know this potato.
Ain't got them in Idaho.
All right, Grace, you up. This is for the votes.
Well, I think she had to go.
Oh, Grace had to go. All right, we'll get her potato later. Who do we have list? We got
Trace.
Do we just? Is Tracy still here?
Yeah, I see you over there. Where you at?
I'm right here. And my favorite form of potato is candied and sweet.
Ooh.
Candied sweet potato.
Ooh, the yams.
Do you like it saucy in the pan? You know, got that syrup.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
The more the better.
So you got to vote for Tracy. You got to vote.
Yeah, the candy yam.
That is
and that's nice because very very rarely does somebody mention sweet potatoes, and it is a potato.
Why don't people?
It is a potato, and it's a delicious potato, man. I mean, some may say it's a superior potato. You know, so we have for sure a little bit of mac and cheese on the side of them yams.
Oh, that's called black excellence. So when you mix the sweet potato and the mac and cheese, we've coined that. That is black excellence. Last but not least, I should probably know this answer, but I don't. Camille, what is your favorite form of potato? As I take notes.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, I'm just gonna give one because
I go a whole convoluted ass.
I like sweet potato fries with barbecue sauce.
Ooh,
I just watched Bob's Burgers, and Bob would not appreciate you and your sweet potato fries.
That is now barbecue sauce. That's interesting. I mean, like, you know,
you don't dip your fries in barbecue sauce?
Usually no. I don't ketchup, tomato based sauces is a whole other thing. Especially dip it, but you know, typically, you know, with sweet potatoes, you dip it in some kind of like one of them little buttery kind of cinnamony like little dips. You know what I mean, or whatever.
Oh, but the barbecue sauce has its own sweetie.
It does.
Tell them. First of all, I dip all fries in barbecue sauce. Don't matter. Wafer, with any type of fry can go good with barbecue sauce.
I mean, if it's a nice, you know, if it's a nice spicy barbecue sauce, like a little sweet, spicy kind of like a kick to it or whatever, I got, you know, and the consistency is a little thinner, you know what I mean, for the dipping or whatever. I can see that, man. I just can't do like like one of them, you know, just regular old mesquite type, you know. What kind of barbecue sauce you dipping that in? What's your barbecue sauce like?
I'm done with you. Trenda, one more time, where can they find Black women for a better education and the barbecue sauce?
You got to get Salah's potato real quick.
Is Salah here? Okay, hold on.
Okay, I was hoping he was gonna get Salah's potato.
Smooth ass potato. Is he off mute? Salah, you here?
Yeah, I was trying to slide by, but they busted me. Every New Year's Eve, I fix dinner for my wife and I, and we always include twice baked potato.
Now, so tell me, what is a twice baked potato? I have never really
baked for longer, right?
Yeah, I have never fully understand what that is and why.
You bake it, then you take it out, and you scoop out the middle of the potato, and you hook that up with some butter and sour cream, and whatever other way you want to fix it up, and then you beat it up like mashed potatoes, and then you scoop it up and put it back into that half a potato that you just cut in half, and you put it back in the oven and let it bake again for another 20, 25 minutes. That's twice baked potato with bacon pieces on top. Ain't nothing like it. I
mean, so what does it do? Like, what does it do for the regular? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why bake it twice? What is the texture consistency that you're getting from the second bake over here?
Yeah, you putting all of that stuff back in the oven, let it mold together and cook up again, and that's why they call it twice baked. It is baked twice. It's unbelievable.
Oh, I get it. So what we're doing with the school board is we taking it, we put it, everybody's doing the school board, right? We taking it out the oven, we scraping out all of its contents, right? And we mixing them up and we putting them back in the oven and saying, hey man, we gonna mold together. We gonna make this school district as best as it can be, all right? And we all gonna mold and gel and we gonna taste
hear
good
that
as
again,
hell.
brother.
Mold and gel tastes good as hell. That's your campaign slogan. Don't steal it.
You might hear it again.
Mold and gel, and we gonna be good as hell. That's. I mean, I don't know if you could put hell on a campaign like that you put in the yard.
T-shirt.
I'd buy that T-shirt, man. You gonna win.
Put that in my yard.
Just pay me for that. Trenda, I'm gonna give you one last spotlight. Tell them the website again so we can go.
Black women.
Don't do
the
it.
number 4.
You can take some spice out your voice.
Black women, the number 4, abettereducation.com.
Dave, let the people know where they can find us, just in case they ain't found us.
Man, you can find us twice baked at epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google Play, and Spotify under Drinking Partners. You can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at PartnersPod. And you can find us September 10th through the 12th at barrelandflow.com.
Let it flow. Listen, we want to thank all of our guests today. This is a wonderful conversation, fun, you know what I'm saying, informative, and it was necessary, all right? And for those, you know, who skipped to the end of the episode, because I know some people do, Black women, number 4, abettereducation.com. All right, get to know these candidates. Get to know what's going on in your school district. Know what the hell is going on with your kids. Stop just sending them out the house and they coming back with bruises and scrapes and you asking about that, all right? Let's get to know our kids. Let's affect their futures. As always, Drinking Partners is the crew. Epicast is the family. And we out here.
That was, man,
That was a lot of people.
Official. That was, man, listen.
We navigated the waters.
Thank you all for being so gentle with us. You didn't make us feel stupid in any of the responses. I am always feeling stupid, but you can tell you're talking to educators, the people that are, yeah, I mean, like they want your vote. You definitely got our vote. Shit, I'm about to register.
No, they was tame today. I've been on them calls.
Yeah,
I've been in them rooms. I'm like, all right, I see what's going on.
Oh, that was dope, and I learned. I did. I very much have a better understanding. This is